Happy Patriots Day 2024. Now, I'm sure there's many of you out there who do not know the significance of today. Today is a national holiday, but the federal government tries to make sure no one knows it. Today is an anniversary of one of the most important battles in American history. On April 19th, 1775, the British marched out of Boston on their way to Concord to confiscate arms and munitions from the colonists. Now, some people will say the British were justified in this because some of this was munitions that was stolen from the British armories. Does it matter at this point? 250 years ago, well, 249 years ago to be exact, you had patriots riding out of Boston, warning the countryside that British troops were on the way. It didn't take long for the patriots to figure out they were on the way to Concord. The militia was called out, and in Lexington, Massachusetts, the militia gathered and discussed what they should do. They had been preparing for a long time for this possibility. So, able-bodied males assembled with their rifles, powder flask of water, and a bit of bread, and some munitions. And they waited for the British to arrive. The British arrived not long after dawn. The Patriots assembled on Lexington Green in 2 rows. They stood there and waited. The British officer at the head of the column had his troops begin to deploy across the green opposite the Patriots. After his troops had deployed, he ordered the Patriots to lay down their arms and disperse, because that British officer was going to confiscate the arms those Patriots had with them. Their privately owned firearms. The colonists said, "No, we will not leave." Not long after this, a shot rang out. We don't know to this day who fired that shot. But immediately afterwards, the British regulars opened up on the militia on Lexington Green. Many were hit, some killed instantly. The ones that were able to ran from the green as fast as they could. The ones who couldn't run that fast were bayoneted. The British regulars, the troops, then started to ransack Lexington, taking what they wanted. The British officers tried to get them under control. Eventually they did, but the damage was done. Mothers and wives and daughters were screaming and crying on the green for their dead loved ones. The Patriots had fled. They felt shame at what they did, but they came back. The British column continued its march on to Concord, and at Concord Bridge, they met even more Patriots waiting. Not just in lines across the bridge, but lined along the sides of the road, hidden in a tree line. Battle ensued. British blood was then spilled on the ground in massive pools. The British regulars ran at that point because everywhere they looked in the woods, all they seen was the smoke from colonial muskets. They ran all the way back to Boston, and every inch of that run, they were harassed by American militias who were firing, maneuvering to another position, and continuing on to fire. More militias kept arriving by the minute. They asked the ones that were already there, "Where do you need us?" And all that was done, pointed to the road and told, "Look for the lobster backs there. You see something wearing red, kill it." And that's what they did. That road was littered with British dead from Concord all the way back to Boston. A lot of British muskets then went under the control of American militias. Today is a sacred day. Today is the true beginning of the United States of America. Today is the day, 249 years ago, where British subjects said that they've had enough and they wanted to be free men. They wanted to rule themselves. Now, after that battle, the British stayed in Boston. Colonial bureaucrats, politicians, tried negotiating with the British. They were willing to give up militia who had fought on April 19th if only the Crown would forgive them and welcome them back with open arms. Luckily, they didn't succeed. Because if they had succeeded, we would still be subjects of the British Empire. But the hand of Providence was on the shoulder of the militias that day. The militias took a stand and said no to tyranny, no to being disarmed. And the results of what they did that day is what we have around us now. A country of our own for the last 249 years. And I pray that this country will still be here for another 249. But I'm not going to go into further as to how that could be guaranteed. But as you go through your day today, greet others with Happy Patriots Day. And when they ask you what you're talking about, tell them the story. Tell them the story of how common men with just bare rudimentary military training stood up to the greatest ground, land-based military of the world of its day. How soldiers carrying hunting rifles stood up against soldiers with the best small arms in the world at the time, beat them, and created this country. Now, for all patriots out there, all constitutionalists, all Americans, Happy Patriots Day, and always remember, essayons, let us try.